so over communicating is always good, especially you work remotely and as you work in a diverse team. So I always want to make sure that, okay, guys, do you understand what I was trying to say? So, it's just making an extra effort. So if you want to roll out a remote work culture, don't bring talent that can't deal with working remotely or without supervision. So I think it all depends on the talent and what you're hiring and your people cultures in a company.
Hello, you're listening to the Leaders of Learning podcast, the podcast that explores learning in the 21st century with educators, leaders, and entrepreneurs from around the world. I'm your host, Ling Ling. I'm also the founder and director of Spark Learning Solutions. We help to build thriving organizational cultures and create effective intercultural collaboration through education, coaching, and consulting. Technological and social forces are transforming the world of work. How work gets done, who does it, where, and even what work looks like are being negotiated across the world over. The growth of freelancing and the ease of mobility have unleashed the global workforce, freeing it from many traditional bounds and constraints. No longer do teams need to work in the same location or at the same time. No longer are companies constrained to talents in a limited geographical location. Talents globally are open to opportunities beyond their city or country of origin. The future of work can seem all too exciting, frightening, and yet complex at the same time. How can we prepare ourselves for the future of work? Joining us is Gabrielle Frida Loh, the account director of Jobatical based in Singapore. She's an ex-military officer who has ventured into the world of entrepreneurship and now technology startups. She has traveled to 5 continents and 24 countries. Jobatical is a job matching company for anywhere in the world. Their tagline is, "Because your skills matter more than your passport." Hello, Gabrielle. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Ling. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to have you on the podcast show. So can you tell us a bit more about what is Jobatical and how did you end up there?
Yeah, so actually, I just happened to be searching online for jobs outside Singapore. For the longest time, I've been wanting to work remotely. And I was like, seduced by the whole imagine I can work somewhere from Bali or can work somewhere from Australia and connect with my colleagues all over the world. That would be so amazing. So back in 2015, I was working in a tech startup and I wanted to look for a remote position. And that's how I chanced upon Jobatical. And I see Jobatical as in a way, some kind of an Airbnb of overseas jobs. So if anyone who's listening in, just check out the platform and you can actually see that we have jobs in different countries. And it was just really exciting for me to know that this is possible, that I can actually move abroad and relocate to a different country. And even though the role is something that I'm comfortable with. But I ended up working for the platform instead because I believe that Jobatical's mission of spreading skills across borders is something that I believe in personally. And I think this is a great way to help employees around the world, especially in Southeast Asia, to help win the war on talent.
Have you observed this in your work in the technology startup about the struggle in fighting for talent? And what have you observed?
Yeah, so actually on a daily basis, I speak to, maybe 3 to 5 employers. And I always hear this, I can't find the right talent. And according to statistics, the global average of, based on 2016, the global shortage of talent is actually 40% in Singapore and 38% across the world. And I believe the statistics are actually increasing yearly. So It's actually a real problem.
For these kind of talents, does it focus on a particular kind of industry or is it across industries?
I would say that it's across industries, but the majority of the clients, let's say 70% of them, the biggest challenge that they face is in really sourcing for technological talent. So you're talking about people who are developers, people who are software engineers, full stack developers, so on and so forth.
Okay.
So today's topic is about the future of work, and I've done a bit of research. So there are major consulting companies like McKinsey, Deloitte. They've come up with websites and research about how the future of work would look like and how it will evolve. But I would like you to share with us what you believe the future of work may look like, and why do you think we're heading in this direction?
Maybe let me just answer the second question first on why do I think we are heading in this direction. I think it's been, when you're young, you see futuristic science fiction movies that talk about having robots to work with you or having robots to replace human beings. Actually, we are reaching that stage. So it might sound scary to people, but we're heading towards this stage because someone dreamed that the robot can help enhance our quality of life, not just at the workplace, but also at home. So we are now reaching this stage because now we have enough data, we have sufficient, I would say, we have enough clever people to start building the technology that can help realize this. So in summary, we are at the stage where we have enough technological advancement and talent to move us towards this direction. And so coming back to your question on why do I believe the future work looks like, I think I see where you and I, we can work from anywhere. We can choose to spend a week at home to look after our parents and still work. And I believe that we can leverage on artificial intelligence to help us automate certain work processes that is really cumbersome or tedious and time consuming. And so that we can spend more time on value adding and looking at the big picture. So that's the really broad picture of how I paint the future work for me.
Yeah, actually, the future of work is kind of now because as we're recording this podcast show, we're doing it in 2 different locations.
Absolutely. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's ideal. So I'm based here in KL with my own things that I need to do here, and you're based in Singapore.
That's right.
But yet we could still get the work done because of all this technology that's made accessible and available to us.
Absolutely.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah.
Just a follow-up question with how you answered on why you think where we're heading to. Do you believe that we should be afraid of the robots and AI taking over our jobs?
This is something.
That fear valid?
I don't think this is valid. I think at the end of the day, with robots coming into the workplace, I don't think they can actually replace all the jobs. And I believe Deloitte and McKinsey have had extensive research where perhaps maybe 15% or 20% of certain vocations, they are more manual. For example, the chef in the kitchen or someone else that's serving fast food. Yes, I think we can start seeing more robots, but I think with more robots also means there's more jobs created. So, like 5 years ago, there was no such jobs as data scientists or Android developers or even social media marketers. But now we have all these new jobs. So I think in every generation, we see more new jobs being created because of technological advancement. And personally, because I have 2 older parents at home, I can't be at home to look after them. But I think a robot or having some smart technology within the house would really help me monitor, the mobility and even the health of my parents. So I think we should embrace it and let's not be too pessimistic because I think things are actually going to move towards that direction. We can't change it. So let's see how we can make the best of it.
Yeah, that definitely sounds like a great benefit to embracing AI and robots into our life because there's just so much of things that we want to do, but we can't do if we're stuck in a cubicle in an office somewhere.
Absolutely. Hit a nail on the spot. Yeah.
So I'd imagine you are working in the future of the work at the moment with Jobatical. So mind if you could share with our listeners, what is your typical day like, or perhaps maybe share some success stories of those who are adopting the new way of working?
Actually, I can share a little bit of my typical day because even though I'm actually based in Singapore, I chose to be based in Singapore because that's where home is. So on Mondays, I actually work remotely. So that means I wake up not too early in the morning because I don't need to commute. So that's brilliant. I get more sleep. I have my coffee, I have my breakfast, and then I switch on my laptop. So this is actually, I think that's part of working in a remote setting. It's important to know when are your most optimum and productive hours. So for the first 2 hours of the day, I switched off all communication tools. So in Jobatical, we use Slack to help us communicate across all departments and different continents because we work remotely as well as a company. So I switch all that off and just continue and start doing what I need to do. And then it's like any other office. I have break for lunch. And then I start the whole process again. But then this time I start to switch on my other communication tools because I can't work by myself. I do have a team that works with me in a different continent, a different time zone. And then this actually moves on to about 3 or 4 hours. Then, of course, you take breaks in between, just like any normal work day. And I have dinner, I make time for a quick workout. And then it extends a little bit longer into the evening, depending on my clients. So some people might say, working hours are so long, how do you cope? Well, you can always choose to start work a bit later the next day or, squeeze in a little bit more time during the day. So yeah, that's really my work day. It starts sometimes at 10, sometimes it starts at 11. It's quite flexible. And I work across right now 3 different time zones.
Oh, wow.
Sometimes 4. Yeah.
Does it get a bit lonely? Because if your team is scattered all over the world, you won't get to see them face to face. And if you're working from home, sometimes you don't see anyone else apart from your family, right?
You see, I used to think that I would be. I was a bit hesitant at the beginning, but I realized that because of the fact that we work remotely, we actually reach out to each other a lot. We have Slack, which is a great way to even, not just to message, to even have conference calls or face-to-face calls. So sometimes I need less distractions and I need to be focused. Don't talk to me now. And I even switch on my email because hey, I need to do this right now. I think for me, as I'm a little bit of an introvert, I find that this remote style really works for me. I'm actually more productive.
Yeah, there are certain times in the day when I don't want to be disturbed too. So working remotely certainly helps. And, even though people contact me, I know the message will stay there. I just don't reply to it.
Precisely, if it's really urgent, people will call you, right? I mean, that's it.
Exactly, yeah. But then you realize nobody really calls because that means a lot of things are not as urgent, right?
Yeah, people are just, either they will send you an email or they will send you a message. So, yeah, you can just get back to them when you need to.
Yeah. And you've been working like this for a while already?
Yeah, I think since April I've been working like this. So that's not 6 months, a bit more. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, was it a difficult transition for you from a regular 9 to 6 job in an office to a remote kind of position?
Actually, no, I rather enjoyed it because I've been looking for something like this for a while. So, and I was like, yes, finally I can do this. But I would say that, of course, any new job or new way of work will take time to transit. So I guess because working remotely requires me to learn a lot of new skills. So, and if new skills are, for example, so first of all, Jobatical is a multicultural company. We have 20 nationalities in this team. So first of all, I had to learn how to communicate in a way that everyone could understand me. Because as a Singaporean, I have a unique way of communicating. I can't speak in short form because they're like, what's that? What does that mean? So I had to learn how to communicate clearly. I had to learn how to over-communicate. So over-communicating is always good, especially you work remotely and you work in a diverse team. So I always want to make sure that, guys, did you understand what I was trying to say? So, it's just making an extra effort. And then, of course, learning to use multiple tools and also learning to figure out when was the best time to speak to them based on the time difference. So that was some adjustment. But so far now that's probably now second nature to me.
Oh, wow. And it's pretty good that you've managed to learn all of this within 6 months of, transitioning to a different type of working.
Yeah, I guess the human nature, we're quite resilient as people. We're quite adaptable. So yeah, it's okay.
And it also helps when you're motivated and truly want to work in this kind of way. Because I don't believe that every kind of individual out there would be suitable for this kind of jobs.
I think you're right. Yeah. This is something that I was just trying to explain to my mom. She's recently retired. She was an accountant. And she really liked to be in the office and she enjoyed the structure and the routine of an office. And she liked having people around her. So I guess for some people, you can do what we call semi-remote, right? So you work remotely for your company, but you can actually work in a co-sharing space. So there are still people around you, but there are some people who need to have eyes around them. So need a boss to tell them, hey, you need to get this done. So working remotely won't suit them.
So based on your time with Jobatical, what do you believe are the typical jobs that are adopting this new way of working? And, how does it reflect in the global market?
Hmm. So actually, I see that there's a three group of roles that are actually suitable for a remote or mobile position. So essentially, technological roles like developers, data scientists, analysts, designers, and then we come to business development, where sales, marketing, customer support, and then of course business support, where people who do finance or administrative purposes. So if you think about it, it's like almost 70, 80%, almost 90% of job roles that can be remote. And I was just doing some research as well in terms of the global market sentiment. I think IWG did a survey of 18,000 business professionals. I think they did this across 96 international companies. And apparently, more than two-thirds of people around the world work away from the office at least once a week.
Oh, wow.
So I think this is fast picking up around the world. Yeah, we can't avoid it. Yeah.
Yeah, you can't avoid it because the future is here. And companies, if they want to get the right talent and not be constrained by talent in their geographic location, this is what they have to opt for.
Yeah.
But there are, of course, more traditional companies that argue if employees work from home, they might be lazy, they will not deliver, they're going to lose connection with their colleagues, and some people take advantage and abuse the flexibility. What are your thoughts on this?
I think, yes, I see where they're coming from. I think there are certain companies that really like perhaps some very extremely highly secure companies with really sensitive data. I think they will need the individual to be based in their country. Fair enough. There's some roles that can't do remote or mobile roles. But I think, if you trust your employees, when you bring them in the first place, you have an idea what this person is like. So if I want to roll out a remote work culture, don't bring in talent that can't deal with working remotely or without supervision. So I think it all depends on the talent and what you're hiring and your people cultures in a company.
So when it comes to adopting the future of work, it's not just the motivation of the talent, but companies themselves have to go through a transition from a more traditional model to a more flexible remote model.
That's right. And I think it's also, companies I realize that this is something that I hear more of in the Asian market. So my European clients and American clients are probably fine if they're a lot more open to remote work. So I think it's really, the culture. And I think it doesn't mean that if the person is in the office from 9 to 5 or the person is working late in the office, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're more productive. It could also mean that they are less productive. That's why they need more time to finish their work. So it's a mindset. I think that's something that we can learn from our Western counterparts.
Okay. Is culture the only reason why certain companies and talents resist this change in the future of work, or do you see any kinds of reasons why?
I think also it depends largely on the nature of the business. And I think also it depends on the leaders. So I think the CEOs and the top management of a company also have a huge responsibility on, let's say we want to hire technology talent, for example, and they can't find it in their country. So they usually have a thinking process like, okay, so let's think of hiring beyond our country. And if there's a process where it's difficult for this person to come over to their country, they're more open to remote work. So I think it's just a process, when there's the issue with a talent crunch, people start looking out at their country and they also start looking at different ways of working if the talent they want is unable to move into their country, for example. So I think it's a process. The leaders need to take ownership. If you want to embrace remote work, they can always be a little bit more conservative and start in different departments and then eventually roll out half remote work or even full remote work. So yeah, it is possible. They just need to take the leap.
Okay. It also sounds like with Jobatical, you encourage companies to hire talents from abroad and move them to wherever the company is. So, for example, if your company is based in Estonia, you want to hire someone from Brazil, you have to deal with all the paperwork to get this talent from one country to another. I foresee that not all countries are open to hiring foreign talents. Is that something that you see in your work?
Yes, I think there will be certain countries, especially in the West right now. The US, I think they're facing challenges with that. And surprisingly, I speak to US employers, who tell me that they want to hire international. so, so sometimes it's the issue of we want to hire, but the laws are not ready. I think maybe I use Singapore as a good example. We have an issue of hiring the right experienced technological talent in Singapore. So there have been enough companies who have raised their concerns and given feedback. And IMDA in Singapore has actually done something really bold. They signed a project with Jobatico, and now we're actually preparing this campaign for them. Well, we blast Singapore as it's a global business and innovation hub to experience tech talent, to attract the best talent into Singapore. So I think sometimes it's a matter of companies raising their voices enough to the people in power. And so how Jobatico helps is that we can actually help with the immigration and relocation processes, because we've been doing that for ourselves. So now we've been doing this for countries and companies in Estonia and different parts of Europe. So now we're starting to do it for our clients in Malaysia and Singapore, and hopefully in more countries in APAC soon.
Okay. Because I have a good friend who is in recruitment in Malaysia, and they are looking for STEM talents like data scientists and things that are related to big data. And the talent pool in Malaysia is limited when it comes to these kinds of positions. But because the hiring of foreign talents, the process of it in Malaysia is pretty tedious, the recruitment process is really frustrating. So they need someone in this role, but yet, the process of hiring foreign talents is making it difficult for some companies to get the talent that they need.
Yeah. I understand that from some of our Malaysian clients that unless a company has what they call MSc status, it's actually quite difficult to hire international. So that's why I usually recommend them to consider remote work. So you can still get the best talent, and it's just that you won't get to see this person, all the time.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense then, because the future of work is more flexible and more accessible as compared to the traditional forms of working. So if the company is open to remote work, they can access talent anywhere. They just have to be more comfortable that they may not see the talent on a daily basis, right?
Yeah. In fact, there's this company called Buffer who's pretty transparent, and they are known to have a global remote work culture. And for employers or talent who are actually keen to look at embracing the remote work culture, I would recommend that they look at Buffer's blog and website to see how they actually manage their team remotely. And they are spread out all across the world, but they still make time to have like 1 or 2 retreats in a year where they get everybody together, because it's important to build rapport and relationships within the company.
Of course, yeah. You've mentioned earlier that you manage virtual team members that don't work in the same location as you. How do you do that?
So I think this is something that I don't have that much direct experience with, but I can share a little bit of what our head of marketing she does. So Lauren's actually our head of marketing. She works remotely. In fact, we actually have other members of our marketing team that work remotely from Paris. And so Gons is our B2B marketer. He actually works from Paris, and he also travels. And we have Dia, who actually travels in different parts of the EU, and she's our social media marketer. And then we have Maria, who is actually based in Estonia, is one of our copywriters. So for us, what I've seen them do is they have a fixed meeting every week. So everybody is kept abreast of what everybody does. So I think because of this remote culture, they are actually very transparent. Everybody knows what everyone's doing. So because we place our KPIs and our work tasks on our Slack channels, so it's up to you to find out who is focusing on what this week. So the transparency and honesty, you need that in order to succeed in this remote work culture. So I think what Lauren has done is she has incorporated this element of trust and transparency in the team. And I think with a good leadership, the way she builds rapport and the way she develops and trusts the team members has really helped in building a really strong marketing team as well in this remote work culture in Jobatico.
Trust and transparency, those are the key words.
Of course, hiring the right people on board is also really important. And we've hired people through our Jobatico platform too.
How would you know if a person is suitable for a remote work kind of role? What do you look for?
That's a good question. Actually, I was looking for somebody to assist me, and I was interviewing some people. I think I've always asked them, do you prefer to work in a supervised environment, or do you prefer to be given autonomy on planning your own time? And I think most people would think they would think do better in an unsupervised environment. That's what most of us think, right? We have a different version of what we think we are, but most people would say that no, actually, I need supervision. So I will first of all look at somebody who has. I will look at the work experience. Does it connect with the kind of strengths and skills I need in pre-sales? For example, in my case, it's a pre-sales talent. But is this person and what kind of culture are they used to? So I'll usually ask them, what is the kind of supervisor that you would work better under? And what is one that you would not enjoy or you would really dislike? So these are the key questions I will look out for. And then we have a chat very clearly about the work culture. And I'll ask them very frankly, do you think such a work culture will actually make you more productive? Or do you think you would prefer something different? And it's always a very honest and transparent conversation. I think that's how we do our hiring. And I think that's something that we should all, look at.
What if a talent has not had experience working remotely or working without supervision, but they do want to be able to transition into that kind of work environment? What do you think are the first steps that they need to take to help them transition? Is it a particular skill or knowledge or mindset, do you think?
So actually, I'm an excellent case study of that. I had no experience in remote work before I joined this company. So what I did was, I think what the company that did really well was they actually flew me in to meet the team. So I think companies need to have some kind of what we call an onboarding process. So it was an all expenses paid trip. My accommodation was paid for. I actually got to meet the team. So I think as part of the transition is to really meet the team face to face, get to know the company culture, what the product is. And then thereafter, there's more confidence built, right? So I had to learn all the tools that we use, all the communication tools, how we manage our projects. So I could actually see physically what other teams are doing. And so it's a very transparent process. So learning the skills, meeting the people, and then just having faith and just doing it. So these were the 3 key steps in the process for me.
And also having the support of the company who is readily open to have remote workers too. And I think that definitely helps new talents to transition into a remote working environment.
Definitely. Thanks for pointing that out, Ling.
So any parting tips you have for our listeners if they wish to transition into this new way of working?
Yeah, I would say be open to new ways of working. I have an optimistic attitude because having this remote and flexible way of work has shown to increase your life satisfaction. It's also shown to increase your work satisfaction and your productivity levels. So be open, be optimistic, learn to communicate effectively using a digital device. So that means proper English, no short forms. And be prepared to over-communicate to make sure that some person who is 6 hours behind you, who is 6,000 miles away, understands what are you trying to say. And so we're living in exciting times where you can choose to travel to somewhere and work at the same time. And I think I would say just do it.
Before we end today's session, can you share with us, do you have your next location in mind for your work?
Yeah, I think my next location in mind is probably Hong Kong. And
how come?
So the Hong Kong market they're actually ready and looking for tech talent. So I'm excited to head over to Hong Kong either this quarter or next quarter to spend a couple of months there.
Oh, that sounds really exciting.
You're welcome to visit me, Ling.
I'll do even better. I'll work from Hong Kong instead.
Woo! That sounds good.
Fantastic. So if any of our listeners would like to get in touch with you or like to learn more about the future of work, how can they do so?
Yeah, so you guys can drop me an email at Gabrielle@jobatical.com. So that's GABRIELLE@JOBBATICAL.com.
Thank you very much, Gabrielle, for your time and sharing with us the future of work.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Ling. It was really fun. Thanks.
That was Gabrielle Frida Loh, Account Director for Jobatical based in Singapore. Highlights of this episode and contact details of our guest is available on our website at www.culturespark.co/podcasts. That is www.culturespark.co/podcasts. PODCASTS. In our next episode, we will speak to Richard Mago, who is the CEO of ODEM. ODEM is short for On-Demand Education Marketplace. We will be discussing about blockchain in the learning industry. If you enjoy listening to this podcast, take a moment to rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Play Music, or wherever you download your podcast. If you believe this podcast show will help a friend or family, please share this episode with them via social media or your podcast app. Thank you for listening to the Leaders of Learning podcast.